Call the meeting to order at 6:12. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I do apologize, thank you for waiting and be patient while we had our executive session meeting. Okay, Ms. Ramirez, do you have roll call? Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, the purpose of the meeting this evening is for approving personnel and other matters properly presented. Do we have any public comment regarding agenda items? If you have anyone in the public who would like to speak on agenda items, please come to the podium, sign your name. Okay, seeing none. We will move on to 4 personnel. I will need a motion for A and B. A, motion to approve the attached healthcare buyout resolution, and B, affiliation agreement with Millersville University of Pennsylvania.
Motion.
Second.
Is there any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next we have C, motion with regrets and best wishes to approve the following retirements as presented. We'll take D, E, and F. D, motion to approve the following resignations as presented. E, motion to approve the following leave of absence as presented. And F, motion to approve the following administrative transfers as presented.
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next we have G, after-school program, and H. G, motion to elect the following after-school program employees as presented, and H, motion to elect the following summer employee as presented pending receipt of all forms and documents required by the district.
Motion.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next we have B, adoption of the E EASD 2025-26 proposed preliminary budget.
I'd like to make a motion to table this item and reschedule the adoption for the budget. Do we have to bring this first and second it first and then table it, or
No,
can I
you
just
can,
table it?
you can just do a motion table.
So as we're seeing the presentation
Second.
a little later tonight,
Well, let's see if
Yep.
there's a
I'd like to
second
make a motion to table.
Okay? Okay. Okay, all in favor of tabling until next week?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will have the presentation under the regular board meeting. Okay, is there any other business? Okay, seeing none. Okay, interested citizens in non-agenda items. Is there any citizens who would like to speak on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none, if I can call adjournment to the special meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next we move into the standing committee meeting. We have the superintendent's report, Ms. Piazza.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you again for your patience this evening. Today, I do have a couple presentations that will happen under my section, but I also wanted to publicly thank Dr. Schultz. She's not with us this evening, but Dr. Katie Schultz today would have been her last board meeting with us. Friday is her last day with us, and so we had an opportunity, and we'll continue to see her this week as an opportunity to thank her personally, but publicly wanted to thank her for her years of service here in the district. This evening, we have a few presentations, so we're going to start, I think, with the Easton Public Library doing their budget presentation. So Jen, if you want to join us.
Great. Thank you. I wasn't expecting to speak so soon after seeing this, so this is excellent. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time this evening. I am here to present to you the 2025-2026 Easton Area Public Library budget. We are presenting to you a total operating budget for the library of $2,722,119, which, as you can see, the library's budget is asking $1,871,364 from the special library tax revenue collected by the school district for this upcoming year. And as a reminder, the school district agrees to be the taxing municipality for the public library. Public libraries do not have the authority to collect taxes in the state of Pennsylvania. And that equates basically this year, the library's budget is proposing a 3% increase in our budget, or a modest increase of approximately $54,506. The remainder of our budget, as you can see, consists of state aid for being a district library center in the state, and just our own internally generated income. There is no proposed increase to public libraries from Governor Shapiro's budget. But that being said, we were able to really look at some things internally and really pull back on some things, and with some other retirements and some just within the library, really feel that we have a conservative but yet budget that we can use going forward for the upcoming year. So as I do customarily at this time, recap of the last year and talk about things that are happening at the library. Last year, you might remember that we started to direct resource share with the 25 other libraries in the Lehigh Valley. The reason we're able to do this is because we share the same automation system, the same computer system that we use to check out books, check in books, our same catalog. That is truly a cost savings for all 25 of us, because we can share our items. We already had a vehicle literally in place to share items, and we just erased those boundaries. So if you go onto our website and you're looking for whether it be a book, a DVD, music, or book on CD, and you see that a library in Lehigh County, whether it be Parkland Library or Bethlehem Library or Eastern Monroe and Monroe County Library has that, if you place a hold, simply that item will come to you at Easton within a day or two. That is truly a savings for everyone, because we don't have to try to buy every item that there is available. And it does save on shipping. We don't have to ship items. We can get those items that way. Just in 1 year, all of us shared over 255,000 items, which that number just, when people ask me, like, are libraries still really relevant? People still use libraries? When I say that number, absolutely. And what's interesting about that is the most popular book that was shared, for those of you that are readers in the room, was, of course, The Women by Kristen Hanna, which was a very popular fiction book. It was on all the book clubs. It's a must-read. It still has a long hold list. But what was really telling is that one of the highest books in that list, the top 10, was Dave Pilkney's Dogman's Grime and Punishment. And if you know anything about the Dogman books, which I saw all of your fourth graders at the library this year, and I asked them, what do you like to read? And they said graphic novels, and most of them said Dogman. That Dogman Grime and Punishment book, which we all snicker and might have a little chuckle, that book was shared thousands of times between all of those libraries. And although I'm sure adults get a chuckle reading that, that's what I think about, is that families bringing children to the libraries for access to those books. So working together with these libraries has really been a success, and I'm glad that we're able to do this in the Lehigh Valley. And we are, in Pennsylvania, the largest sharing partnership in the Lehigh Valley. Back down to the Easton Library, we circulate just about 200,000 items every year. We have over 15,000 library card holders in our community, And we register, on average, about 100 new library cards per month. And certainly, I know I don't need to tell you this, but with, have you seen Easton, all the new construction, all the new apartments, and not just in Easton, but within Palmer and within Forks, we've really been able to help promote the library, have flyers, handouts, goodie bags to tell about, this is your library, welcome to the area, please come to the library, and being able to tell people, register new library cards, which is great for us to tell people to come to us. But then we have the influx of people coming in and registering new library cards and having to buy new library cards for us. So we do see about 200,000 visits to the library every year. Online materials are still the most probably so popular as well. I know I'm going to tell this to every group, especially this year when we did see the Express Times no longer being published in print. You can still read the Express Times through us. All you have to do is go to our website, and under the e-library, besides a wealth of excellent databases that we do have, that your students can use, that anyone can use, we do have access to full text, to the images of the Express and the Morning Call, and they are available just with a library card. We also have now 20 museum passes that we loan out to families or to anyone who comes in. We really have seen that locally we have some great educational places, and we really want to encourage people to take advantage. Sometimes you don't know about some of these great museums and great day trips that are accessible to go. So to be able to come into the library and check out a museum pass to the Constitution Center in Philadelphia, or the Seaport Museum, or Eastern State Penitentiary around the Halloween holiday, we have those passes for you. We have 90 mobile hotspots that help families connect to the Wi-Fi access. Within, I lost my train there. We have over 1,000 people using our computers at the main library and our Palmer branch a month, because there is such the digital divide still in our community with just trying to get access to the internet and access to the internet for whatever it is that they're looking for. Even just downtown, we see, we do charge 20 cents for printing, whether that's printing from the computer or coming in to photocopy, and daily that's what we are helping with, is people coming in to print, because there really isn't anywhere else downtown to print, to connect to print, or to photocopy anymore. The ebooks, we have over 14,000 titles that people can check out, and over 2,000 magazines that you can check out through online, and 9,000 audiobooks that you can check out through online as well. This year's summer reading program is Color Our World, and that will be starting on June 16th, so right after school ends, where, of course, we really hope to have our families come in and participate, and that's something that we do really enjoy with our children and our teens. We're reading and winning prizes through the library. We have so many different activities planned. We do have all different programs. We have Lehigh Valley Zoo coming in this year. We have ice cream trucks coming in. We have all different things to really just make it a vibrant summer. And of course, prizes when children and families read. Our story times are at full capacity, that we add more story times every time we can. We add another session to story time. We do have, for our school-age children, we are offering different kinds of art clubs. We do have gaming clubs, writing clubs. we have all different types of activities that we do try to offer for our school-age children, especially in the summer or on the weekends. Our Mark's Room of Local History, we do have, I know I talked about this before, but we do have a full run of the Rechauffe yearbook, and we now are starting to get duplicates, which is great because you never know when something happens to one or when one decides to take a walk. So we do have duplicates, and we do keep those in a separate place, and we do fill them in. And we're starting to see people coming in, again, the ancestry and local history interest is starting to fire back up through everyone. As I mentioned a little bit ago, it was great to be able to see almost all of the fourth graders this year from the Easton Area School District. I really thank you for your support with working with that permission to allow the fourth graders to come to downtown Easton in partnership with the Siegel Museum. They come in and to talk to them about the library, which many of them have already been to the library, of course, the school library. But when I have them in the Mark's Room and talk to them about the Easton flag, especially with America 250 next year, but when I talk to them about envisioning what life was like in Easton 250 years ago and the Easton flag and what makes the Easton flag so special. And for some of them who might have seen the Easton flag or recognize it from Easton football games or other Easton sports, it's really fun for me to see. And your fourth graders are tremendous. I'm a little impartial to the Cheston fourth graders, of course, being a Cheston alumni, as we know, but thank you for your support with that, and I hope we can always continue having the fourth graders come to the library. As I'm wrapping this up, as you know, we are so grateful for the support of the school district that you provide, being our tax collection agency. This partnership goes for more than 100 years, and we really are really thankful that we do work together so well. It is with my great honor that I have been serving as the library director of our public library for 20 years this year. And I stand here and I stand here still with all the nerves as when I did 20 years ago, but I think about how much has changed. But I really am just so proud as an Easton area high school alumni to be a part of this. Thankful for the partnership, thankful to work with all of you. And certainly as a taxpayer within the district, I certainly respect and appreciate your willingness to serve on the school board. I know how much you do see, go through, and you are respected and appreciated. So thank you for what you do. But is there any questions I can answer about the library's budget? Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, we do have another presentation this evening, and that is from our friends at Dewey and CHA, who are going to talk a little bit about our proposed high school building project, steps that have been taken to date. I know Dr. Ziadik, sorry if there's anything else you want to say prior to starting that presentation, feel free.
Sure, no, I just want to say thank you to CHA members and Alloy members, along with the administration, for working through some conversations over the past 2 months in regard to the continuation of that design and the project itself. So tonight we probably have about a 25, maybe 30-minute presentation reviewing what we've accomplished over the past 2 months together as a team, and then we'll be looking for some feedback and some input, and then we'll talk about future steps. So just want to welcome CHA and Alloy. And Jamie, I think you're kicking it off tonight? I think Randy said you were kicking it off tonight.
We'll do it together. So I think we might need to just grab this.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah, that's fine.
So we're just going to grab this and do this, but we wanted to first of all thank Josh, Tracy, Ken, the whole team, the whole admin team that's been meeting with us every week. And then every 2 weeks, we've been meeting again, and then there've been a bunch of stakeholder meetings as well. So I know you gave us 25 minutes. We're going to beat that and be ahead of schedule. So here we go, Jamie. Why don't you walk them through?
All right. So this slide's kind of just showing our team that we have here tonight. Randy is sitting behind me. He's our principal architect and owner of LA5. And again, my name is Jamie Bortz. I'm a project manager with LA5. Arif is next to me with CHA. Mike DePodwin is sitting, moral support Mike. He's our project manager from CHA. And Rick Roseberry is with us as well. He is our lead on civil with Colliers Engineering. So this is just a quick kind of agenda of what we're going to review today. First, we're going to go over the site selection, which should be pretty familiar to everyone from previous board meetings. Then we're going to go through the schematic plan of the building. We'll go through some program comparisons between the existing building and the new proposed building. And then we're going to talk about construction phasing as well as the budget and the schedule. So first would be the site selection. So this should look very familiar to you. This is the existing site as it stands today, with just a couple stats on the side. Your existing square footage at roughly 377,000 square feet. Your current enrollment at roughly 3,000. That gives you about 125 square feet per student, which puts you at a capacity of about 109. So we know your building is jam-packed currently.
Just by reference, there used to be rules of thumb when PlanCon was available, and the rule of thumb was 120 square feet per student for an elementary school, 150 square feet a student for a middle school, and 200 square feet per student for a high school, just as a reference guide. And we'll talk to you about what the new building is looking like. But those were the basic premises under the PlanCon parameters, just to give some benchmarks as a reference to what that actually means.
So previously, there was a lot of discussion and investigation to a couple different areas on the site as far as building back on some of the existing baseball fields, on the existing track, in the corner, number 4, which was initially selected. And we went through a lot of investigation, did soils testings, all different types of reports on all that information. You can go to the next one. We came up with this grid to really analyze the pros and the cons of each site. And of course, these came out determining that the corner site was the best possibility to use. You can go to the next one. So this is where we ended up at the last board meeting that we presented at. So approved the location to use, which is the baseball field in the corner. We're looking at certain things to achieve with this, which would be to reduce the parking travel distance for the students and staff, to reduce the internal travel distance within the school itself and try to be more efficient with the layout, and reduce the square footage of the building, therefore reducing the costs. So at that point, we were looking at a building at roughly 450,000 square feet to 480,000 square feet, with this similar student capacity of student enrollment, which would leave you at 149 to 159 square feet per student. And at that point, we were looking at a budget range of 290 million to 320, which is going to change, of course. So.
Yep, and the only other color commentary I'll add to this is there were 3 things that we challenged ourselves with as we went through this. One was just reaffirming the location, because there are some challenges with the location that we determined to be strategically the best solution. There are still some challenges with that, but as we were doing that, we went back and revisited, and we still are feel very strongly that that is the best strategic location while keeping the high school in operation. And then the other good news with this slide is we've been narrowing down the square footage as well as narrowing down the cost, so that's good news. So when we get to the end and I have to talk about budget, just wanted you to remember this is what we showed you in January, and we've been keeping it below that number and working towards that. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention, and part of the reason Rick is an instrumental, Rick Roseberry is an instrumental part of this is, You can see the site and the road infrastructure in the site. There is significant site work, parameters and items that we must address. We've got some really good news as we move forward, which I'll talk to you about, but you can see from a site standpoint, we are addressing the entire site campus. So this is a remaster planning, I believe, of the entire site that we own, which is really cool because it gives an opportunity to project out for the next 50 to 100 years what this could be for this school district. So there's my color commentary. I'm being Dick Vitale today.
Okay, so the next will be the schematic plan review. So after the site selection, and we came back to the studio and really sat down to decipher what would be our programmatic concept behind the design for the school. And we thought about what the heart of Easton is, which was the center square. So you can see, you know, center square is a square, but it's also the circle. So how can we navigate around that circle and bring the programs to the heart of the school as far as the academics? So we came up with the diagram kind of at the bottom right of a ring of academics in the red, and how we can merge and connect the arts and the auditorium and music, that department, to the athletics with the administration, and how we can ring that academic zone within all three of those. So you can go to the next one. So this was the point that we came across. So as Arif said, this is really like a campus master plan redesign. So things that we're getting on site in, because we're moving the building, would be new turf varsity baseball field on the bottom left, a new grass practice baseball field, a new varsity turf softball field, new tennis and practice fields, a new band practice field near the band room and near the auditorium, a new access road around the track to the lower end of the site, because you'll see some of the grade changes in next slides, a new access road from the bus lot to the lower site. You can kind of see, which we'll zoom in, that the buses would come around the back of the building, dedicated bus parking behind the building, and then additional pedestrian improvements, and trying to really centralize all the parking for the school for activities during the day and for after-school activities. Anything? Yeah.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll add, so some good news to talk about here. One is we don't need to do a traffic study. The traffic already exists. We're not really changing too much from a traffic flow, as those of you who have been involved in other projects knows. If a traffic study is waived, that means there are potential savings from a traffic standpoint. There'll still be some improvements necessary, but one of the things we're going to do is we're going to make sure we do an internal traffic study by a traffic engineer, because one of the things we want to make sure is that the traffic patterns that we organize on site, Randy and I were just talking about it earlier, we've talked about it with Rick, is get somebody to independently look at that and make sure our campus planning for traffic movements are the best they could possibly be. Okay?
All right, so zooming into that image, you can see where we're nestling the building into the corner. And what we're looking at is to kind of sink it into the grade and bring some fill up so that we have a level parking lot and a main entrance on a second floor. And then you would go down one floor to programs, and then you would go up one floor. So a big majority of the academic piece would be 3 stories. Your gymnasium is kind of sunk into the ground as well, with the main gym floor at the lower level, as well as the auditorium, is on the parking lot level on the other side. So we're trying to take advantage of the grade back there and use it to our advantage to get a lot of these academic spaces to have exterior access, be able to get the band to have a good spot on the outside of the building. You can see the green space between the auditorium and the academic wing. That's where we're proposing the band would have their practice. They still have a parking lot off to the side. You can see all the major parking in the front, bus overflow in front of the gymnasium for other after-school activities. So the most important thing to think about with this is that, you know, this meets the core program that we've reviewed with the ed specs and reducing down the square footage of the building. We have a robust horizontal and circulation system. We're still keeping that ring, but we don't have multiple rings anymore. We have additional community space. We have capacity for 3,000 students in the gymnasium to hold the whole student body. We have a capacity for a single class for 1,000 in the auditorium. We have a lot of common spaces that also be academically activated. So we're kind of dual using the cafeteria eating areas as large group instruction spaces, open spaces for students to come and gather at. And within, condensing and bringing the building up, we've reduced our interior and exterior travel distances all around. Bless you.
So I guess you're going to show them the floor plans in a minute, but basically just as a reference guide, so level 2, I guess we would call as the main level, right? With level 1 below it, which is accessed primarily from the rear, and then level 3 is 1 story up. So really the movements, although it's a 3-story building, are pretty much usually 1 floor up and down, and which really makes things good from that perspective, but also allows us to compact the building footprint for cost reasons and stack things together. So you'll see that as she walks through the floor plan, but that would give you kind of a good reference point, okay?
So you can go to the next slide. So this is just a flattened version of that image where you can see where we're laying out classrooms. We have a key legend at the top there. So, and I know it's small and it's hard. It was hard to read initially when we put room labels on, so we're trying to get a little bit of a blow up. But we have a really condensed academic wing core. So we're testing out this idea of these double corridors with a zone in the middle that would be occupied by academics and adults. So we have a piece of administration sprinkled within the academic zones back there. We have the blue-greens are the general classrooms, the dark green is science, and then the beiges are the administration. So you can see where we have clustered of things kind of throughout. And the light purple is special education or small group rooms or learning support. So we're trying to, make this as efficient as we can, but also ensure we have natural light to a lot of these spaces. You can see to the right, this is where we have, we have our auditorium. So this is the upper level. So that the auditorium floor is on the floor below that, so it's kind of sunk into the ground. The athletics, you would enter on this level, you would enter at the top, so we have a running track above the gym floor. So you would have, this level would be like your auxiliary gym, and if you were coming for an event in the gymnasium, you could enter and then go down the bleachers to the main floor. So we're trying to take advantage of that of the grade change there by sinking that volume down. So you can go to the next slide. And again, this is a kind of zoom in again. You can see it better from the previous slide. You can just go to the next one. So going a floor down, this is that ground level. So the back end of the building gets more of that access from the grade. So you can see where we would have some bus parking in the back. And back there are a lot of our tech labs, design labs, art rooms. They'll be able to get that ground access, that outdoor access to everything, as well as the band and chorus and marching band auditorium. They have a lot of access to the grade around the back of the building as well. So that ground floor would have our main auditorium space again for 1,000 students. This ground level has our main gymnasium floor for 3,000 between the seating, all the bleacher seating in that space. Our pool is all the way off to the left, so that would be down on this level as well. And then all of the gray in the back is our maintenance facility, maintenance storage, kitchen, serving, supporting the cafeteria space. You can see the dark blue. That's our common, so that can act as our cafeteria space or a group, large group instruction space that has access to that courtyard, as well as the other dark blue kind of in the middle below where the main entrance would be. That's we're proposing as our media center or our library to kind of be part of the ebb and flow of the student population and the circulation, with still some secluded areas underneath for books and small group meeting spaces. But we really wanted to activate that space as part of the academics. And then this would be the third floor, so you would access this floor from stair towers throughout that piece. And this, again, is mostly general classrooms, science labs again. We have science stacked really on all 3 floors, and then some small group support rooms on this floor as well. So this will be an interesting chart, and if anyone has any questions about it, feel free to interrupt me because it's going to be a lot of information on it. But just to start off, the admin and our group toured a couple of schools ahead of the design of the new building, and we went, reviewed the ed specs, reduced the program in September, further to 535,000 square feet. Then kind of took another round, reduced the program even further, so we got it down to right under 500,000 square feet. And currently where we're at now, you can see the date of April of this year. This is our current square footage where we're at now. So we're down to 457,000 square feet, which gives us at PDE capacity of 2,975 students. PD, of course, takes capacity a little bit differently because they look at 25 children per classroom, and we know you have 30, so you have, clearly you have more room to put more kids in that building where we're at right now. But that also puts us at 151 square feet per student. And you can see that comparison to some of the schools that we toured, such as Dallas High School, Wilkes-Barre, Innoboro, and Upper Marion. Those have some larger numbers, but again, we're looking to make a more efficient building and activate some of those open spaces to try to really have a dense academic building and keep that circulation down. So this chart, again, has a lot of information on it, but what we did was we took the existing program, which is on the upper level. We added up all the square footage allocated to the disciplines, so academic classrooms, which is English, science, or English language, social studies, those types of rooms, science labs, special ed support, and so on. The dark blue is common spaces, so cafeteria, library, and then we have that labeled as service initially in the existing. Community spaces, we're looking at music theater, and then gymnasium athletics, anywhere that the public may gather after school hours, and then our support for the building, which is academic and faculty. So when you're looking at the existing building, you have a net square footage, which is minus circulation and support spaces, bathrooms, all those other things. You have a number of 240,000 square feet. That's compared to your overall square footage, which is 377,000 square feet. So that gives you a ratio, which is an efficiency, of 1.57. So that's pretty good. But when we go to the building we're looking at now, we're trying to activate more of those spaces that you wouldn't normally activate. So we're trying to pull some of those community spaces into the academic zone. And we're increasing some of those spaces to have, the capacity to house 3,000 students in the gym or 1,000 students in the auditorium, things like that. So we're upping our square footage numbers in all of those categories, but we're also making our building more efficient. So we're looking at a net of 311,000 square feet versus your total square footage of our building, which we're at 457,000 square feet. So we actually are going to reduce we're going to get better efficiency at 1.46, but we're gaining almost 70,000 square feet in building. So we're making this a greater, more academically efficient building for our students. And again, that's because there's an increased learning square footage by activating some of those service spaces for academic and community use. We have less of a travel distance. We have only one big ring instead of multiple in the building, which reduces our travel distance by almost 300 square feet. And our parking increased, but we're making it more efficient by having it all be on the same level rather than at all these tiers. So.
Yes, so just to reinforce what she said again, sorry. So the scheduled area is what the 311 is and the 240. That's called scheduled area. So it's scheduled for use, essentially. And then the other one, the architectural area. So just again, as a reference point, PDE asked you for justification if your ratio was greater than 1.58. So the existing school is just at that teetering point, whereas the proposed school is well below it. So again, just to give you another reference data point. The other thing that this did for us is we were concerned when we saw the double corridor in the classroom wing, but it reinforces, I think, that there is efficiency being gained all around. And that, although that provides so many different opportunities from when we saw some of the schools that had that, it's not hurting us, which is a positive. So if the district really likes that, which the team really liked, and it seems to work from an educational delivery standpoint, we seem to be on track from an efficiency standpoint of a design. So I'll say Alloy 5 is doing a good job. I don't want them to say it. All right, I'm going next. Okay. So you better help me out with their color commentary too. You know what I mean? So, all right. So construction phasing, as I said, you know, we confirmed that we're at the right spot, but you know, keeping a high school of 3,000 students, and by the way, it's tremendous with some of this good weather we have had. When we went out there and did our reconnoitering for the phasing, anybody know what that word reconnoiter is? Anyway, it's a, yes, you do. I'm sure you do. Good call. Yeah, anyway, you can tell them later. But anyway, the bottom line is it's such an active site, so much going on. So that's where we're going to need help from the district. You know, Kenny's already on board with this. Josh is the principal. Kyle's been at every meeting. They're on board with, we know we're going to unfortunately have to deactivate some zones to really make this work. And really what's important is it's a school site first, construction site second. That's what we have to remember when we start talking about the phasing. It's as simple as that. However, there's a big however. We have to make the construction site efficient and executable so we don't overpay. The example I like to give is you drive up and down the turnpike, the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and you see the number there. It's a $298 million project widening from you know, Plymouth Meeting up there all the way up to Quakertown, right? Well, if I were to tell you only 100 million of that is going into permanent improvements and 198 million was spent on all of the temporary stuff, we don't want that, right? So there's going to be a little bit of pain and there's going to be a little bit of work that we're all going to have to do it. So we've set up on the bottom. I'm not going to go into the details of the phasing because that's for us to work out. But just from a general timeline, we have it broken in 3 phases. Phase 1 is to start in May 2027. And by the way, starting at the right time is key. Bidding at the right time is key. Getting our bid documents right, our phasing and our site plan and all of that right is key. There's so many keys that we've got to hit so that we can beat our budget. That's really the key. Phase 1, bam, 1 year. We're basically within the yellow zone. Everybody's a little happy at this time except for the pool people because we have to take the pool out in order to really make this work. But other than that, we're starting off nice. We getting some earthwork, some of the stormwater that Rick likes to get happy with. But other than that, nobody really cares, and we're seeing some footings and stuff happening. So 1 year. Go to the next slide. Now we're in phase 2. See the timeline on the bottom? Now we're in phase 2. Now we're still happy because we're starting to see some stuff happening, but there's more contractors on board. Stuff's coming in. You know, Kenny's getting called because can't get this out, and you know, closing stuff down, and you know, Mike DePodwin's pulling his hair out. He's going to be like me by that point. You know, no hair. So here we go, right? So 2 years of that. 2 years of getting this building out of the ground, this beautiful building that's going to be the new Easton High School. Now we're coming to the last phase. And you can see, if you remember, just stay on that slide for a minute. If you remember that front entrance there, we have to get to the front entrance. But in order to do that, the existing school's in the way. And what portion of the school is that right there? So remember, we got rid of the pool off the end there where the blue items are. Now that whole wing is the mechanical plant and gymnasium area. So now a little bit more pain because there is no way we could do abatement, demo that building, and do the site work so you can get to the front of the building properly in, what do you guys have these days for summer? 8-10 weeks maybe? You know, you close school and you're starting it up again already, and so all of that. So we need more time than that, as you can imagine, to do that demo and get that site work. So we haven't worked out all the details, but we're working through that. So we're going to need something early 2030. If you go to the next slide. Early 2030, that red part is the biggest issue. We're going to have to work with the team. The AD's been on all of the team meetings. He's been there. Kyle's been there. We're going to have to figure out how we get an early phase demo, backfeed the building with a temporary cooling plant and electrical, and keep the rest of the building functional while allowing construction to continue in that area. And then there's a lot of other logistics. I'm not going to bore you, but to us, that's the biggest challenge. So want to make sure the board's aware of it, make sure the community's aware of it. There are some challenges. We've been through some harder stuff before. This will get done, and we'll figure it out, all right? So that's the phasing. And sure, please.
Color commentary. So the beginning too, we have to know that the baseball field that the building's going to go on, all of those new fields at the the left of the site would be constructed first, so that any of those sports that would be disrupted would be done and out of the way, so that we wouldn't lose any fields during the main school to be constructed. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I thought she was going to say it's a great job with the phasing, but.
It is a great job.
Okay, yeah, I'm just saying. All right, so the next slide, I think we're going into the budget, all right? So the budget and the final, schedule we've kind of talked about, but the budget. So we came to you in January with the site option selection. You saw that slide. The number was north of 300 million. We've brought it down, so rest easy, we brought it down. We came back to you with the draw schedule that Jack and the financial team are working on, and I know you guys have have to deal with that. It's a tough decision, but obviously that's part of the plan there. So just wanted to remind you. So today the numbers you're going to see are below the numbers that we've been talking about, which is a good thing. The square footage, we're at, as she said, 460. Actually, we went down. We're 457, even better. Where we were talking about 420 to 480. So we're doing really well there, and you can see from an efficiency and program standpoint, it's going to be hard to reduce more. We don't want to have a building that doesn't serve us for the future, so we need to be careful with that. We've had to take care of some additional site work, and some of the site work logistics are very, very complicated. Just to very simply put, all of the utilities head down towards 22, right across the site that we're building on. So we've got that. We've got stormwater heads down there. So some big challenges, which Rick is up to the task. He's going to be hovering above and figuring out all the solutions. But we've worked through some of those. We have some ideas on how all that's going to work. Preliminary phasing we talked about. For a project of this size, we felt like we could tweak down the fees, permits, soft costs from 15 to 13. I'll show you that. This is a big one. We've set the inflation factor at 2% right now. And I'll show you what that means. It's still big numbers, but that's something we have to work on. And that, to me, is going to be dictated by timing, proper bidding at the right time, the order of magnitude of this project, making sure contractors execute. We can work on that number that way. So those are some parameters I wanted you to be aware of before we reveal the budget. Next slide. That was like the draft yesterday. They call it the reveal. Sixers couldn't do it though. Still number 3 picks. Jeez. Anyway, so the reveal for the budget is $298 million is what we're looking at as the total project cost. Now, what I want to remind you what that means is if you look up above, the construction costs, the hard construction costs, permanent improvements is $230 million approximately. So out of the 298, 230 is hard construction cost. Then you come down the line, and we can address any of those, but in that is everything from the abatement to the demo to the site work, and a very limited amount of phasing line item. And then fees, permits, as I said, I think we have plenty there. And then we've got furniture and equipment. We got to fit this building out. We got close to $7 million there. The administration's going to work with Josh and Kenny and the principal are going to work on honing that down. I think we can pick up something there. And then we've got 2 contingencies there. They add up to about $11 million. We have to keep those and hopefully minimize what we end up using there, if anything. And then right below the bottom line there is, you know, it's a long project. We've got about 7% in inflation also factored into this budget, which is good, but obviously we don't, the fact that we have something in there, but also we don't want to use it, right? If there was something we were going to save or find a way to get it, imagine if we could either get half of that back or some version of that $20 million back on the table. That would be fantastic, or not spend it, right? So that's how we make up the $298 million. Total project cost at an executive level, we're sharing that now. The next slide is going to tell you the work we still have to do. So the work we have to do is we have to monitor. ENR tells us that inflation's at 4% is what we should use. I think that's okay for a project when you're 70 million, 60 million. Because of the magnitude of this project, I feel like right now hovering at that 2% is still okay because of the order of magnitude that it is, okay? But we have to keep an eye out on that. The earthwork and geotechnical investigations we have to do. So if there's something that we don't know, we know the square footage, but the subsurface issues on this site, as you know, we picked the site where we felt from a historical perspective, an initial investigation had the least possible risk. We now want to verify that as the design gets further and confirm it. There will be some subsurface improvements required. I can tell you when we did that classroom addition off by adjacent to the track, we had to do compaction grouting. Lehigh Valley is a bad area for subsurface sinkhole carbonate geology. Unfortunately, this site has additional issues to contend with. So we're going to have to do something. We have some money put into that budget too for it. We just want to make sure we manage it right and include it up front so it is part of the project bids. That's what we want to do there, okay? We are continuing to look at the tariff uncertainty. Every one of our clients asks me about that against the current schedule. Bottom line, construction, you can ask anybody. There's never a cheaper time to do it than now. You postpone something, it just becomes more expensive. What the impact of the tariff is, we can all sit here and talk about it. I don't know that anybody knows the answer to that, but we're going to have to just continue to monitor that. If there's things we can do to mitigate impacts to us, we'll have to do that. Again, you have to remember when you do a project like this, just another rule of thumb. I've given you quite a few rules of thumb today, but another rule of thumb, about a little over half of that hard construction cost is labor. So that's not affected by tariffs. Then a lot of the stuff that we're putting into the ground when you talk about the other half of materials is soil, dirt, movement, you know, concrete, masonry, products that, you know, I'm not sure what the impact is going to be. But there will be some, could have impact. I'm not going to say no. I just don't have the answer. We're going to monitor it, okay? Opportunities, though. Continue to scrutinize overall square footage. Make sure we keep to that 257 or less. This is a big one. This project is prime for value engineering. So we use SAVE, Society of American Value Engineers, and we're certified in that, and we've done some tremendous value engineering exercises. After today, after getting your input and maybe at the next meeting some additional input from the board, either way, we're rolling up our sleeves and the whole team's going to work on a value engineering exercise. We're going to study what type of footings. We're going to challenge each other on the type of structural steel. We're going to challenge each other on the HVAC systems, electrical, plumbing, every single area. We're going to make sure we deliver value to the district, okay? Not always cutting costs, delivering value. That's what the key is going to be. And I can talk to you a little bit more about that at the next meeting. Verify off-site improvement scope of work. PennDOT, I already gave you the good news on that. We don't have to do a traffic study, but there will be some road improvements in 25th Street. There'll be some improvements along William Penn for sidewalks. Sidewalks are being put in everywhere, and that's probably a good thing at a high school. So again, good stuff there. The site work is in progress, defining that scope a little bit better with stormwater and all the earthwork. So we're in that process, and we're going to find a way to make sure, you know, we can keep as much dirt on site, minimal import, all of those type of strategies. This is a big one. I told you about timing, the procurement strategy. We may have an early site phase. What's the biggest procurement challenge on this project? I'll give you the answer. The size of the project. There are a limited number of general contractors and even other prime contractors that have bonding capacity or capability to execute a project like this. I already know how to fix that. We're looking at that. We got a strategy for that. So we're going to work on that. We're not going to say it publicly because I'm not yet ready to reveal. All right. So we're going to work on that. Evaluate and refine the fixed furniture and equipment budget. Bottom line, a lot of opportunities to keep us in the right direction, and we've got a lot of work to do. So we're looking for your input today, I think. I think that's the last of the slides. We're looking for some direction, input. Oh, two more? Oh, schedule. Yeah, I think we've got the schedule. Go ahead. Yeah, the schedule, I think you kind of know it. I hit that with the phasing, so I won't belabor it. But we want to be in the ground, right? We just said right there in 2020, what is the date there? Groundbreaking. We want to do a ground May of 2027. Okay. The next big milestone for the board, I'll tell you that, which is going to come up on the next slide, is we're going to come to you in August of this year. Yeah, but I just wanted to show them on the overall timeline. No, that's fine. If you see that August date, board update, that's when we will be asking for jumping out of schematic design and going into design development. So the stages of design are schematic design, which we're in now, design development, then construction documents, then bidding, and then construction. So the next major milestone will be design development, and then also a big Act 34 hearing that'll come up, which is again required by law. But you guys have been open book on everything, showing everybody everything, so I don't anticipate that to be a big issue. But if you go to the next slide, as Jamie was saying, just a little clearer date pictures where you can do that. Here we are today, May 13th. There's a May board meeting. We're happy to come back in June at the standing committee meeting and either reply to some of the questions that come up between now and then, or just give you another update, or just revisit the same thing all over again, whatever is at the direction of the board, Director Hess. So whatever you guys decide on that, we'll be happy to do that. And then, like I said, we're coming back to you in August to stick with the schedule, because if we don't bid this thing at the right time, don't start it at the right time, to me, that's a big, big variable that we have to control, and we need your help to control that. So I think that's it, I think. Last slide, is there something else at the end? Mike, what's the last one? So the next steps, continue board updates, the board meeting. By the way, just, you know, PlanCon's in moratorium. They keep saying it's going to open up. So we're still going to follow the original PlanCon process for accountability and also just to have it on the record. Maybe they'll just open it up and we'll submit all the forms and we'll get some additional reimbursement. I can only hope, right? As soon as you give us some direction and we're moving with schematic design, we are going to look at some other funding opportunities to try to offset some of these costs. They're not going to be huge, but every $1 million grant that we can pursue is going to be a benefit. I have had good success with some RCAP funding for school projects lately. We would need the support of the local legislators to do that. So we'll get on the road with Josh and Tracy and perhaps one of the board members to help us, you know, with that endeavor as well. So that's there. And I think the rest of it we've sort of all hit, right? Yeah. Okay. Josh?
Yeah, first of all, thank you. That was very comprehensive, and we appreciate the time that everybody's put into this over the past few months. Arif, I do want to make a few references to some of the comments. Although we've presented quite a few things and we've been working through this for, I would say, probably 2 months on a weekly or biweekly basis with a lot of team members, and we've had these presentations for the public and for the board, we'll continue to strategize as administration, as a district, to seek ways to get stakeholder input, public feedback, et cetera. We'll continue to still look at that. And then we'll most likely also look to have some type of committee workshop or an evening where we can work through this as an ad hoc committee as well. And we'd be looking to do that probably sometime in June, looking and seeking board feedback and just opening it up to, to a workshop. So wanted to just share that because I know that's important. When we look at the timeline, I think we've heard it multiple times this evening that we are trying very diligently to keep to the timeline for a million reasons, none more important than just pure budget and meeting those deadlines. And just as a reminder, we want to make sure that, the administration continues to work with you and with Alloy in creating these plans so that we can hit those milestones. And should anything ever change, we'll certainly communicate that with you, but we're going to keep on our track to make sure we can hit those. So just want to make a few of those comments and open it up to feedback, input, suggestions, et cetera, and other comments.
So at this point, Josh is correct. Our next opportunity to hear a little bit about it, not a ton, but a little bit more about it, or to see some schematics will be Monday night at the State of the District. We will have a table there where there'll be some drawings and schematics available and possibly some QR codes for some feedback. We will be seeking to have you continue. This is part of our ad hoc committee. We did decide to do this project at this point in time predominantly as a committee of the whole, and which then invites the public to those meetings. So we will continue to have updates as appropriate during our standing committees, but we will also schedule some additional building project open forum committee meetings. First one being in June, date not selected yet. And then as necessary or as needed, we will have smaller ad hoc committees join some of our already standing meetings that happen during the workday. But our preference, where appropriate, is to have these as open forums for our board as well as the community, so we continue to gather feedback. So I will encourage the board, as we're doing that, to offer your feedback there. And then as necessary, as I said, we'll bring them into a smaller committee groups if needed. So that's where we'll start for now.
Yeah, just, okay, just real quick, this came up before, I've mentioned it before, again, and I do appreciate the, looking at the square footage, cutting down, and I've seen some numbers that you work with on this, but, we did do an enrollment study, so we're looking at the way the enrollment study says right now, around the time the school would open, we would only have about 2,500 students at the school as opposed to 3,000. I'm not going to sit here and argue about the math and everything else like that, but that does, if you do the math on the formulas, that really knocks it down about another 50,000 square feet if you're sticking with the 162 number, and the other magic number you had in there, the 420 number multiplied by something, that knocked like 23 billion off that number right there, based on that square footage. You multiplied square footage by 420 towards the end. So just some observations that I had made. The two questions I had, though, gymnasium athletics, it seems to be quite a sizable square footage from 52 to 79. I'd like a little more on detail on what is that? Is that because maybe we're going with a more full-size pool maybe? Or a standard size for gym for hosting high school, events, wrestling, basketball, volleyball?
Yeah, so
to be kind of like in compliance or whatever the term is.
Yeah.
To meet standards for sports and stuff.
Yeah, so we looked at, taking advantage of the grade to efficiently stack, pieces that we could, like auxiliary gyms up on the second floor above, wrestling, weight room has access off of that running track. But, we went back and forth on where is the entire student body held? And the direction was the gymnasium. It's a cheaper space to build it's a cheaper, larger space to build than an auditorium to seat 3,000 students. So the idea was that we'd have one class in the auditorium as far as capacity, and then you could seat the entire student body in the gymnasium between the bleachers and chairs on the floor. So that's where the biggest increase is coming from as far as that. The pool, you're kind of limited to what it is because of how the pool functions. We're still kind of looking at certain ways to maybe cut something from that, but the biggest increase is from that gymnasium space, that main gym space, so.
And I'll also add, Director Snyder, so two other comments with you. So also the gymnasium space is the heavily used most community space, right? And the other piece is, unfortunately, the current one is undersized, right? So
Right.
factor all those variables in. And then the only other comment I'll make, obviously enrollment, I'm not going to say whether it's 2,500 or what it is, but I would just request that you just can't do the math directly off that square footage, because the core spaces, the one you just identified, probably we're not going to reduce it if you reduce classrooms. So when you are going to reduce square footage for enrollment, it's going to directly be at the classroom, so you can't use that ratio to just do the math. It'll reduce square footage, but it won't be anywhere close to what you're just talking about. But it will reduce square footage, and it will reduce cost if that's the directive of the board, and through the administration, however. But it won't be those numbers, I'm just telling you, because you're not doing the math quite right.
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't figuring the math would be perfect. I'm just
Yep.
going as a
Yeah.
kind of a guide, thinking aloud with
Yeah.
that. But I do think it's something that we do need to consider, that the enrollment may be less with that. And that's really all I want to say. I don't want to dwell on that. I know other people have questions. And I just want to make a comment here. I feel bad for the Art and Technology Department. They're getting a whopping whole new 2 square feet out of this. And everyone else seems to be getting a little more elbow room, it appears there. So maybe 9950 is enough for Art and Technology. I really don't know, but it's just kind of it really stuck out with me, and I know it stuck out with Jen too. Like, well, everyone else got big space, but 2 square feet. There you go. I could maybe put a charcuterie board here, and there it is. So, okay, that's all I wanted to mention. I know other people had questions, so I don't want to hold it up. Thank you.
Go. So I really don't have that many questions. But, so enrollment was the big one. I wanted to talk about the enrollment, and, is that typical that schools, when you're building new schools, you build spaces for the entire student body? And when I look at the other 4 schools you had for an example, what was the square footage and the total cost of those projects? I mean, they're half the enrollment, but what do
Total
you?
cost, that would not be, unfortunately, a relevant answer, but I can get it for you.
Well, I'm just saying. So, what are you looking at a square footage cost?
For our building
us,
right now? Yeah, we're at it's right there, we're at 420.
420.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right on that budget
Right.
sheet.
On the bottom of that page, you are you have the inflation.
Just to
numbers.
correct, that's $420 a square foot.
Right.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah, on that cost estimate page, you have that the bottom section there, the 2% inflation per year,
Yes.
and it says midpoint of construction. Are we bidding in phases, or is it going to be one bid at the beginning?
No, what happens is, that's the way we do inflation, Director Simonetta, because what happens is, when contractors and subcontractors are bidding the project, what they look at is, when are they going to be able to procure materials, have it on site, and execute the work. So that's why it's usually taken to the midpoint of construction. Like I said, that's one we have to continue to monitor. I'm very comfortable with the midpoint of construction strategy. The number that I'm happy to have a discussion, and somebody else might be smarter or have a better answer, we had to come up with something, is whether the 2% is accurate. That's impossible for me to come up with, but I'm very comfortable with the midpoint of construction. That strategy we've used, it's the industry standard on how you do inflation.
Okay, I just didn't know why that wouldn't be included in that first section at the 230 and add the 19 there, or the 20 there versus,
Say that one more time, I apologize.
I didn't know why that wouldn't be added if that's your budget for construction costs of the building.
Yeah.
That, I would assume that to be part of that first section, and the cost of the building would be $249
So you're
million.
saying just move it up? I
I'm
mean-
not saying to do that, I'm just saying, I was confused about
I-
bidding
I-
in phases.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't, no, it's not in phases. I don't have a problem doing what you're saying. I'm happy to
Right.
move the line up.
Just
I just
clear-
want to monitor it separately.
And I'm-
That's
I'm
all
good
I was
with that.
pointing at.
Yeah.
And the only thing I was pointing it out is, the numbers up above, there is some logic to it and some engineering judgment as well as construction, but the 2%, the inflation one, I don't know. We can look at the news and I have no idea, right? With
Yeah,
what's
no, I'm
going
good with
on.
it separated, and
Yeah.
monitoring. I just was questioning
Yeah.
if it was all part
Yeah,
of it.
but the other good point you're making, you made a very good point there. It's only on the 230, right, Mike
Right,
DePadwin? It's only on the 230.
Right,
It's
right.
not on the soft costs.
Mhm.
So, okay, that's
Yep.
the other point you're making, I think, which
Yep.
is very valid. Thank you.
okay. So, we've been talking about this for years. I think we've added cost to this project because we delayed and delayed. Money is a factor. We're trying to go out and trying to get the public to support this. I know it's been talked about before I got on the board. We may have talked about it, since, but everyone's asking, why do we need it? Why are we doing this? We can't afford it, all that. My question is, I don't know if we're driving that point home enough on the need as opposed to try to renovate what we have. And I know you did an analysis, renovation versus new. I think that should be brought forth again. There's a formula to do that. And what are those renovations? I've heard numbers of 30 million. Well, we can fix the high school for 30 million. That's not feasible. I know that. But that's what I'm hearing. So the question is, I think we need to bring that up again. If we're going out with a budget, we're trying to get the public support. I think we need to whatever we're looking for, rekindle that conversation to make it very clear why we're going for a new high school versus trying to renovate and maintain. At the end of the day, we've said this for months now, we're borrowing money. We're borrowing money to fix the high school, to do what we have to do if we don't build new. We're borrowing money because we've spent all the reserves. We're borrowing money to fix our other facilities. So we need to keep this borrowing plan moving forward. I just think, I don't believe that the public is aware or remember the conversation about renovation versus new. And I think we need to really bring that up again, and maybe your next report, next analysis, even if it's 2 minutes, why we went this route and why we're continuing to go this route.
Yeah, Director Simonetta, I know you have a lot of experience and you're very savvy with how to do these projects. So we can definitely revisit it. But one of the things we have to do when we revisit it is we have to be careful that we're comparing apples to apples. And that's where the real challenge becomes when you're saying renovation, because yes, we can go fix the roof and we can go fix some HVAC and we can go do something, I guess, tear the pool down and build a new pool, but I don't know, like what parts are we doing? And I think that's the issue. We will definitely revisit it, but we're going to revisit it as close to the options as we had before, and then we're going to have to adjust for some of the programming that we've verified, and then we're going to have to adjust all of those other numbers for the current costs that have also changed, because I think it was maybe almost a year ago when the decision was let's pursue new versus renovation,
Right.
because we're putting good money after bad. And then there's a variable of programming. How do you do the programming in an existing building and all the challenges of the existing building?
I understand.
We'll do it.
I'm just saying, at this point, we're at crunch time. We're going to be asking for a
if
budget
that's
that's
what-
going to support this building program. That's probably going to be more of a tax increase than it has been.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to be front and center on why we're doing it, as opposed to just asking for it.
if that's what the board wants.
Yeah, it's up to the board too. I'm just saying that I think it'd be very beneficial.
Yeah, so as we started this conversation, again, I should say restarted the conversation, we talked about a couple of different options. One was renovate, one was hybrid, keep part of the structure and build around that structure, and one was new. And I certainly think we can reiterate some of that conversation for the public and the board. So your point's well taken, but there are very distinct reasons, mostly financial and structural, why we chose to go this route. But I think that can certainly be revisited, so the community and the board have full knowledge of that again.
Yeah,
I believe it's justified. It's just, I don't think everybody remembers or understands that.
Sure.
The
And
other,
Mike,
go ahead, Josh.
real quick, if you don't mind, and we can certainly reiterate that too. I do want to make a comment. I know you mentioned you heard about $30 million to maintain the high school. I don't recall being 30, and I will say to you that it was 30 in regard to capital improvements as part of the borrowing plan for the next 5 years. But I will say publicly, we've made the comment that when we looked at the capital improvements over the next 5 years, just in order to maintain the high school, we're looking at more about $53 to $60 million to do those improvements. And then that obviously doesn't address, any of the other needs. That just gets it to a place where it's status quo. But it's really more closer to 60 million than anything else. So just want to echo that to make sure we're all on the same page, obviously.
And that's the analysis I'm looking for, or I think people are looking for. Well, 60 million, we'll do 60 million to maintain the high school over the next 5 years instead of 300 million. I'm saying explain that. That doesn't get us anywhere on our needs for the high school. And that's what I'm trying to get at. And you talked about the ad hoc committees and like the board's input is after presentations and input and decisions have been discussed. We've done very successful projects, as Arif mentioned, and there was always board input during those schematics. I'm hoping that the ad hoc committee or the board input will be on the earlier side of these presentations at the design phase, starting in August, versus getting it after the fact now. But that's not for you, that's conversation here. So
We'd welcome it as soon as possible, yeah.
that's been very successful in the past year, and it's been very successful in other districts that I've worked with. Thank you.
Yep, so as previously mentioned, those will start in June and be running, pretty regularly there forward. I will also make a comment, reiterate what I said last board meeting around the scope of the project. It is something that we're asking our firms to look carefully at the size and the enrollment and keep that in mind from multiple perspectives, a standard building and what is our enrollment projections going to be versus also thinking out of the box about public education and what does that need to look like and how many students would we actually bring into the building at one time. And so those are all things that will continue to be part of those conversations we have with the board and the public and the staff regarding what that building ultimately looks like from a capacity standpoint. The other piece, I think, Brian, maybe you asked, was around the gymnasium and the size of that. Excuse me, and a response was 100% accurate. A couple of things that we were looking for there. One is be able to have the capacity to run the athletic programs that we need to run for our district in a flagship building that we're spending a lot of money on. So we don't want to now say we're going over to the middle school to continue to run basketball. While that is an option, we want to make sure we have the facility within the building that we're building. And the other piece is that currently within the high school, there is no space in that building that the entire 4 grade level body can come together as a body. So anytime they do any kind of assembly or celebration, we have one of our grade levels that are watching it on, on the big screen, on their ETV, in the classroom or auditorium. And so we do think it is important from a community standpoint to have a space, and the gym being the most inexpensive and efficient space to be able to allow that entire student body, even if we're talking about a system where kids are ebbing and flowing across a span of time. When that full student body comes together, is there a space that they can convene as a group? And that's where that number of 3,000 is coming at this point in time. You're welcome.
So my last comments on that part of it too, and thank you very much for the presentation. I think when we talk about some of the stuff with the arts and the gym and those kinds of things, I'm hoping that as it was looked at, reorganizing some of the way it's set up might also help, even though the size might not be increased, and also to think about that not every student is taking art, so it doesn't affect as many students. But I'm hoping, looking at some of the design part of it, is that the reorganization of it is allowing a little bit more efficiency and effectiveness for them to be able to have the curriculum that's good for them.
I will also say, related to that, some of the locations that are currently being proposed or looked at are strategic locations within the building to allow for opportunity to go out into the green space or the outdoor space to pull that into the classroom, and rooms like our art rooms, our bigger tech rooms, are spaces that are being capitalizing on that option as well as we currently talk about that plan. Anything else about this at this point?
Just real quick, so looking at the design portion of it, what exactly will be, is that where we're going to be looking at each of these and saying, okay, here's a suggestion of what we have as far as the design, or here's the questions we have? I think in August it says begin design development. What exactly is covered with that?
What we're looking for is to get as much input between now and August.
Okay.
After August, we want to make sure that the building footprint doesn't move, but we still have a lot of work to do inside each of the spaces. But as an example, if Director Snyder decided and the board agreed that we want to make the gym smaller, as an example, probably not the best one and probably won't, but there's an example. That we have to know now, okay? If for some reason you really decide you want to design the building for 2,500 and want to cut 15 classrooms, I don't know, I'm just using a number, we should know that now. So that feedback should happen now. Like Director Simonetta said, if for some reason we don't like a 3-story building, that's got to be decided now. I'm just giving you the type of things that we need input on now. That's why we're here. We've been to you a couple of times. The location hasn't changed. But some of the other detail stuff, the administration is very capable with staff to, fit out the room and how the science room is going to go. I don't think that's a executive level input, That's, I think, more administrative. But the executive level decision we want right now is, are we on the right track? Is there something you'd like us to revisit? The type of big things like Director Snyder brought up, that's a big thing. So that's what we're looking for. The type of HVAC system, we'll come to you with that later and let you know what that is. You'll certainly be able to say yay or nay, but that's, Kenny and our area of expertise. We hope you'll concur with our direction, but just globally, and then there'll be the aesthetics. So soon you'll start to see the exterior. That's something that the architect will want tremendous feedback. That's board level decision making on what the aesthetics are. We want to focus the civic presence. There's a famous quote by Winston Churchill, right? We shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us. That's the board's, that's what the board should be working on. The shape of the building, the size of it, the budget, all of these type of things. These are the areas we need your input. If we were to get input right now and you were to tell us, I don't know, you got to bring the square footage down or something, we got to know that now, because at some point we're going to be very challenged to go back. And then we're going to miss the timelines, and all of those things that Josh outlined are going to happen, and we don't want to go there with redesign. So this is like Director Simonetta, like you asked, Director Hess, we need that input now. We're willing to come back weekly, monthly, whatever it is. We're working all day, all the time on this stuff, so we're ready.
So without asking those questions, again, not saying that, did there was any analysis that reducing it to 2,800 students, did that save a significant number? Not
Yeah,
having the big rooms, like, was that?
If you go back to the floor plan, we've talked about this. So if you go back to the floor plan, the team has talked about that. Director Simonetta, and even, so go back up one, sorry, the other way. No, you're doing good. Keep going, one more. Go one more, bigger one. There, that one? Okay. So see actually even the bigger floor plan would be better. Go up. Oh, these are the phasing. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, thank you. That's it. Yeah, there you go. So see those rooms there at the end on the far right, on the upper right where the stair tower is? Okay? They're like in a yellowy, bluish green, whatever that is, and then there's the gray. So if you take those 3 rooms off and, 3 floors of it, there's 9 rooms, okay? 9 rooms times 30, that's 270, right? I don't know, something like that. So that's something that we've set up that we could still do. Director Simonetta knows the strategy. Maybe it's just an alternate bid because, today he thinks you're going to save 23 million. I'm going to tell you, you're not going to save 23 million by lopping that off.
But that's the analysis, so.
But we've already done that, Mike.
Yeah.
We're
That's what I said, but we
yeah.
didn't,
We'll tell you. I just told you.
Right.
Ask questions. We'll
Right,
tell
so
you.
that is a conversation we had, and my directive to that was to take the 9 rooms off. So I think, that's from me without having board suggestions.
Right.
But that would be my suggestion, is take
Yeah.
those 9 rooms off.
We can do it as an alternate.
Yeah. Well, and we also have to
Or
think
alternate.
about, like, so with the Act 34 process
but
as
we're,
well.
you're looking at me, but we're not included in this to have that. Now we are, but I'm saying now. So that's my issue as opposed to being in on the early stages. Yeah.
Okay, so my suggestion is, can we pick a date for June to start having these discussions? And that way, we're all informed, we pick a date, we can start having the conversations, and the public's also informed. So,
I'll provide that date for you.
okay, so, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So the remainder of my superintendent's report, a couple real quick announcements. May 18th is National Speech Language Pathologist Day, so certainly want to thank anyone who is working in that field for us. And then we do have the State of the District on Monday night, starting at 6 o'clock at Cottingham. Doors are open at 5:30. And then for the public, we will be putting out an advertisement, but our board meeting from May 27th is being moved to next Wednesday, so it's a change of date and day, so it'll be Wednesday, May 21st, and that will be a 7 o'clock meeting here, rather than canceling the 27th meeting. At that time, we will be hearing our proposed final budget again and looking for the board to take a vote on the proposed final budget. And that concludes my presentation. I do want to apologize, we do have our music staff here for a presentation, and that will come up under academics. Thank you.
Just a quick question, I just want to make sure I have it right in my calendar. We are going to move the 27th meeting to the 21st, that's correct. I just want to make sure I heard that correctly, so I can delete the 27th from my calendar. Okay, thank you, sorry, I just wanted to make sure I had it right.
Okay, so next we have academics. Are you going to be taking that, or,
I believe Mr. Cook and Ms. Hilton are going to take that, and I'll jump in where need be.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Piazza. Thank you, Mrs. Hess. Yes, this evening, Mrs. Hilton and I will be taking the academic committee report for the board. It's an exciting opportunity to have our music folks with us this evening. 2 very important milestones for our chorus at 120 years and our band at 100 years. As most of you know, we also had a ceremony on Friday. The Easton Area High School Day honorees this year was our marching band. So it just shows you the significance of the tradition of the music programs within Easton. And so tonight, we bring to you a presentation. We have with us here Mr. Ballantyne, Mr. Deschler, Mrs. Ohl, and Mr. Ressler. And I'd also be remiss if I didn't provide this opportunity to thank Mr. Ressler for his years of service and congratulate him on his recent board-approved retirement. Thank you, Mr. Ressler. So they will be presenting this and highlighting our rich history of the music program, showcasing some current student participation, providing an overview of some recent curriculum updates, as well as outlining some things that they feel are necessary for the growth and excellence in our music program. So without further delay, I'll turn it over to our music folks, starting, I believe, with Mrs. Ohl.
Good evening. And thank you for allowing the music department to give an update on our 24-25 school year. You can see our vision statement will be appearing up there shortly. And that is to serve our students and community by creating one of the nation's finest school music programs. Some of the things listed here are things we are currently doing, such as supporting existing programs in place, providing access to equitable general music curriculum, vertically aligning our instruction, which we've been spending a lot of time on working on our curriculum, and hopefully our music department webpage will be launched soon. It's ready to go. It's ready to go. And there are some things that we'd like to pursue in the future to support and grow our vision, which is creating a sustainable budget to maintain and replace our inventory and adding music electives that meet students' needs for the future, things that involve music technology and things that are listed there. Okay? We have a passionate, creative, and inspired teachers that want to keep the Easton Music Department growing and moving forward. On the next slide, we tried to sit down and discuss all the things we've done, and we kind of lost count, so we just left it at 125 plus, because we're not really sure how many we do. They're countless. The music department is a wonderful ambassador for our school district, both outside of Easton and most importantly in our own communities. Above are some of our larger events that involve multiple schools or grade levels, as well as Easton alumni this year. And on the next slide, we broke it down even farther, where we showcase what each level's doing. And we often have the opportunity to hear our older musicians play and perform, but we are making an effort as a department to find opportunities for our younger performers to do the same. We're also making a push to find and create opportunities that allow our older musicians to mentor or perform with our younger musicians. Examples of that would be All City Chorus, which is grades 3 through 12, which we restructured different this year, and we made it an all-day event and built in times where they could socialize among 3 through 12, it was very well received by all the grades. And we also do showcase concerts to help fifth grades transition to the middle school. So the middle school music groups perform for fifth grade to help with recruitment and retention. And we do the same with eighth grade moving up to the high school. And we find that's very effective as well. And we also do side-by-side concerts where the eighth graders get a chance to go up and play with the band and the orchestra. So we're working very hard on retention. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Ressler to talk about our enrollment numbers.
So as you can see, in the Easton Area School District, just when you see the marching band going down the street, you know what our enrollment numbers are looking like. We are by far the largest band in the Lehigh Valley, and when you consider that Bethlehem houses 2 high schools, we easily outpower them combined. Currently, this past year, we have roughly 6,200 students, which is approximately half of your student body involved in a music program. From my aspect, looking at it from the elementary, and the question was asked of me earlier by one of our other teachers, our 4th and 5th grade in band and orchestra alone, we have 44% of the student body in those grades enrolled in the program throughout the district. So that's just in 4th and 5th grade, just in band. That does not consider course numbers at the elementary level. So you're probably close to 70% of your elementary 4th and 5th grade students involved in some form of music performance. Middle school, you can see that their growing color guard especially has been brought up just because of the numbers there that have been increasing over the past few years that then feed into Mr. Ballantyne at the high school. Student honors, we have students involved at the secondary level in so many programs between district band, region band, and all-state band, and Mr. Ballantyne also this year has one in...
We had 2 in national in the last couple of years as well.
So we've had students perform not just in the local state level, but in national, I believe all East as well. So, we have students involved in so many things across the district. Next slide, thank you.
So I'm going to talk very briefly just about our 100th anniversary for the band program. So you can read the things on the slides about some things we did to try and commemorate the anniversary. A recording, one of the biggest events was bringing back alumni for the only rainy weekend in the entire fall. That was just my luck. But it was a great event otherwise. And you can see all the ratings, but this is all a lot what the public sees. And I just want to comment a little bit about the kind of the behind the scenes. So, to do any of these things, we take 8 student buses and 2 equipment buses. So it's a fleet of 10 buses to go anywhere. And that is all led by a student leadership council of about 60 students. We have quartermasters that load and unload the buses. We have librarians that take care of our music. We have section leaders that rehearse our groups. And I think through this whole experience of the anniversary concerts and the band festival, it really connected our students with people 30 years ago, 50 years ago that did the exact same things. And they got to have that connection a little bit. We talked about how many performances. Mrs. Old brought that up. This year, our high school ensembles, band and orchestra, performed about 75 times this year. 10 in the last 2 weeks. We just had one of our last jazz events of the year this past Saturday. Looking back at our seniors and their involvement, in the past 4 years, they've performed to over 1 million spectators. That includes things like the New York St. Patrick's Day Parade, Main Street Disney on a jam-packed day, which gave me some anxiety, just getting them all out of the park. But like Mrs. Ohl said, they're great ambassadors, not just to our local community, but also nationally. And this senior class had the opportunity to travel to Germany a couple years ago, so even on that international level. On the next slide, we talked about the 100th anniversary, but now it's what's next, what's coming next year. So our enrollment in the high school marching band is projected to increase next year. I always ask myself, well, why? Why are things happening that way? And some of the reasons why we are offering more after-school opportunities. So we offer after-school tuba lessons because that's always an instrument, really hard to get students in the younger grades to do that. And so why don't we fix that? And so we have students pairing up with some adults to teach after-school tuba lessons. This year, we were fortunate enough at the middle school level to start a beginning band and beginning orchestra program where Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Davis come up once a week, and they get to work with beginning students who maybe missed that 4th grade or 5th grade opportunity, and if they jumped into 7th and 8th grade band and orchestra, they maybe wouldn't be successful. So it gives them an opportunity on beginning lessons to begin working on that. And then, as Mr. Ressler said, our color guard, that is led by Miss Ferguson. This is going to be her 3rd year doing middle school and high school. And if you look back at that earlier slide, it says 50 in middle school and 49 in high school. So the numbers are coming up, and this upcoming year, we're thinking we're going to have between 65 and 70 at the high school. And that's a true testament to her. This upcoming year, I'm going to be very brief about what this next season looks like. We're trying to modernize ourselves a little bit while keeping with tradition. So the next time you hear the marching band for the halftime show, you're going to hopefully recognize some of the music. We are licensed with Coldplay. So if you know the band Coldplay, you're going to hear a little Coldplay in our show next year. It's not all Coldplay, but it's something a little bit different for our marching band to be doing. The kids are really excited about it, and it provides them a challenge, but also connects the audience with music that they're going to recognize too. And then this year's a big year for our armed forces. So the Navy it's their 250th anniversary, and they're doing a homecoming weekend, the middle of October, and we have off of school that day, and so we're going to be going down to Philadelphia to do the 250th Navy homecoming parade. And then our big event for next year is in New Orleans. We're going down for the Sugar Bowl parade and various other events surrounding the Sugar Bowl. We'll be traveling over winter break, December 28th through January 2nd. We are taking buses down there, 7 charter buses. It's a little bit of a long drive, but it'll make everything else feel like a really short drive. But some of the performances we'll be doing include the French Quarter. There's a battle of the bands down there, so we'll get to compete with bands across the country that are performing at the Sugar Bowl. And then, of course, the New Year's Eve Sugar Bowl parade down Bourbon Street. And then in addition to some sightseeing, and then the bowl game on New Year's Day. So I'm going to turn it over. I have one more thing. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. And then our wind ensemble and our chamber strings have been performing at adjudications the past couple years to get evaluated by some state college professors and all of those things. And next year, our wind ensemble was recently invited to Westchester University for a new series they're offering. It's called an East Meets West concert, and it combines one high school band from the eastern side of Pennsylvania with one high school band from the western side of Pennsylvania, and will perform for each other and then do a concert with Westchester University band, which is a really great experience since so many of our students end up going to Westchester University. So I'm going to then turn it over to Mr. Deschler to talk about our choral program.
Hello. We celebrated our 120th anniversary this year with a concert on May 2nd. We had an alumni choir join us. We had 3 rehearsals with them, and then we put them on the stage with the rest of the current choir at that concert. We commissioned a piece by Walter Chase, who's a member of Straight No Chaser. He's an alumni from 1995 of Easton Area High School. And the piece was called Singing Brings Me Joy. You can hear it on our YouTube page. And we're in talks with him about possibly commissioning another piece for next year. All the music at the concert, with a few exceptions, was written by either current or former student and staff of Easton Area High School, including one of my favorite pieces that we did was from 2 ladies that graduated in 1910 called Dreams of Easton High. So we recorded the concert, and it's going to be broadcast on WGPA 1100 AM on Sunday, June 8th at 2 p.m., one day before graduation. I was interviewed on WDIY a couple months ago, and it was rebroadcast a few times. It was broadcast at April 10th at 11 a.m. and April 27th. So some of our other highlights this year, we started a conducting fellowship program. I met with students from the choir in the morning before school started, and we had our student conductor. She conducted one of the pieces at the winter concert, at one of the showcase concerts, and also at the anniversary concert. Her name's Izzy Beakey. She's going to be a music major at Moravian University next year. We took a trip to Philly and Baltimore this year to see Chanticleer, which is a full-time professional choral ensemble. They were fabulous. Next year, we're planning a trip to Hershey, and in 2027, we're planning a trip to perform at Carnegie Hall in New York City. Some of the other things that we've done this year and are planning to do again next year, we were invited to perform at the Temple University Cantate Festival, which is a high school choral festival that takes place in October of every year. You have to be invited to go. So next year will be our 2nd year. We've been performing at Moravian University Choral Adjudication every year. Rowan University Young Man of Song Festival, that's in October at Rowan University. We had a vocal health clinic this year brought to us by St. Luke's University Health System, and they talked to our students about taking care of their voices. And next spring, our spring concert will be celebrating 250 years of the United States of America. So all of our composers on that program are going to be American composers. Names you might recognize, I hope, Aaron Copland, George Gershwin, and like that. And then we'll also be looking forward to our 13th anniversary of the All-City Chorus Concert in 2016.
I'm going to bring up the ESSER word here, but we've came tonight to, again, say thank you, board, for approving that for us last year. It's been a godsend. You can see there, it was the first major purchase of instruments and equipment since before 2000. The kids were ecstatic. It was Christmas in September at the schools when they saw the things appearing in our rooms. So the process was not easy, and it was extremely time-consuming, but it was worth every minute. We worked very closely with Dr. Draper on that. And with your support, we were able to add over 430 instruments and pieces of equipment that have impacted students across all 9 schools. And these purchases have allowed our students the ability to create and experience music in new ways. And there are some pictures there. We kind of put smiley faces over them, but there truly were smiles in those pictures. The top corner is actually from my room. That's my little March Elementary music room. I had 3 xylophones before ESSER, and it would take me all 40 minutes for all the students to be able to cycle through and play. And now I have 14, and they get to buddy up, and they have 2, and they're playing 20, 25 minutes of the class period, so they are loving that. And I'm able to do so many more things, and there's a lot less discipline problems because they're more engaged. And the bottom picture are the new cellos up at the middle school. So the kids were just ecstatic. So thank you, board. Thank you for that support.
For the 7th year in a row, this has been awarded to the Easton School District. This is something Mr. Ballantyne spearheaded at the start, but it goes to show you the support we do have here in the Easton Area School District. So again, thank you. Next, Gina. And you can just keep going to the last one. So obviously, needs and concerns of the department. This is, our biggest discussion point each year at vertical time, so that we can align from our youngest all the way up to our oldest. We do not get a great deal of time as a department K to 12. A lot of our in-service time is grade level specific, whether it's elementary, middle, or high. So being able to discuss what's going on across the district is important to us, especially since some of those department times have been eliminated. The second one has been addressed by Ms. Piazza, so we do appreciate that. Long-term budget planning is our biggest concern, and it has been for many years. Yes, we got the influx of ESSER's money last year to purchase the instruments, but what's going to happen to those instruments? So creating a budget is something we've discussed with Mr. Cuck and are still working working on just to maintain the instruments we have. Individual buildings, especially at the elementary level, do not have the budgetary ability to pay for repairs. It's not addressed in principals' budgets. So there are times instruments may get damaged that we just cannot repair and then sit on shelves unused. For the past 5 years, since COVID has impacted us, ESSER's funding has paid for the cleaning of all the instruments students use at the end of each year. We do not have that money this year. So I know for the last week of school, I'll be spending a great deal of my time cleaning and sanitizing instruments for use in the future. But for the high school and the middle school, that's really not going to be an option because they're talking about a great deal of the number of instruments that need to be taken care of is just insustainable for them to do on their own. So they do have some budgetary on their own at those levels they've always had, but not nearly enough to take care of this. So something, again, that we've been discussing with Mr. Simonetta Mr. Cuck, and he's been taking it back to our CFO, I believe. So that's something that we're just discussing. Staffing. And this is a great one, especially with what's going on with me. 2 years ago, we lost a staff member due to retirement. We understand the financial situation of the district, but that eliminated general music in 8th grade to address it. And then to address some of those deficiencies, we lost 7th grade general music to adjust the staffing at the middle school to allow them to better facilitate the programs that existed. We still believe there is need there for a second vocal teacher to address the numbers and to assist Mrs. Kirk Greenblatt with what's going on and her numbers at that middle school. That was something that had been there for many years, and then when we had the budgetary issues back in 2011, 2012, those positions were lost and never regained. And finally, and this is the one that's near to my heart, what will happen with my retirement? Will I be replaced? I do not know. Like I said, currently we service 44% of the 4th and 5th grade students with the 5 instrumental teachers that we have across the elementary level and some assist from classroom teachers in 2 of the buildings. With me leaving, and if I am not replaced, I do not know if that is sustainable with 4 teachers. And I know that is been weighed on and thought about. Mrs. Ohl and I had a discussion about it this afternoon in preparation for this meeting tonight after we discussed it. So I thank you for your time. I look forward to you discussing these when you can. And I thank you for my 24 years here. As I reach the end of my career, this is not my first stop, but it is my last. So at the end of 33 years in instrumental music, thank you for all that you've done for our department and that you continue to do for it. And please consider these things as we do consider our growth in the future. Thank you.
Rich, again, we want to thank you for your years of service and wish you health and happiness in your retirement. Certainly we'll be discussing these things as we have already started. And to the department, thank you for being patient this evening, but also thank you for your presentation. Very well done.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Brian.
No, again, same thing. I want to, congratulate you on your retirement and thank you for everything you've done. As most people know, my children have gone through the band, both my boys, and it's been a very good experience for them. They've built some strong friendships. They always enjoyed it. They learned a lot, and I was really pleased with how that has worked out. The band itself represents itself well. Those of you who have traveled to other festivals, either locally or even to the ones more several hours out, we get compliments on the band all the time. I'll be standing next to somebody at a parade or performance, and our band will come, and I'm just there, and I'll hear the person next to me just make this comment, like they're amazed, like, oh my God, who is this? And I'm just like almost kind of snickering a little bit, like with pride, because I'm like, yeah, they're going to represent, and they're going to. You will be very impressed with them when you see them play. I don't even have to say that to them because I know that will happen. So I really, I know your IMA is very strong, and I know they'll continue to advocate for you as far as when you need things for instruments being purchased, cleaned, maintained, anything like that. I know, trust me, I know the IMA. They're very, very active, and I hope they continue to be too. So thank you. For the whole music department, Mr. Ballantyne is a great leader. He's a great director. I'm not a music person for band. I didn't follow it when I was in high school, and I'm at the point now where I go to the football games really for the band more so. And yeah, I want the team to win, but I like listening to the band too. They really get it going. So again, thank you, and I do appreciate everything you do, and appreciate everything you've done, for my sons and their group of friends. I have band kids at my house all the time. Sometimes they come over and jam, 6 or 7 of them. So it's been a good experience for them and good experience for me too. I've really enjoyed it. So thank you again.
So I have a question. So the honor students, can you explain a little bit of what that means as far as being an honor student?
Yeah, so there were a couple different levels. I can start with the district level. So there's a state organization, PMEA, stands for Pennsylvania Music Educators Association. In December of every year, students go to Parkland High School. There are 12 districts in Pennsylvania, and they audition for a spot in a district-level festival. So this year, we had 10 students make a district band festival, including one of our Barry sax players. He's a freshman, Sawyer Lamas. He ranked #1 on his instrument as a 9th grader competing against seniors. So we had 10 students make district band, 7 students make district orchestra, and 1 student make district choir. To give you a perspective of how many students typically audition, there's typically between 600 and 700 students auditioning, and they take approximately 120 depending on the ensemble. From there, if they rank high enough at the district level festival, and if they're also 10th or 11th or 12th grade, so Sawyer couldn't move on this year, they can advance to a regional level festival. There are 6 regions in Pennsylvania, and then they can finally advance to an all-state festival as well. And we had 2 students, Alex Jin and Ella Hudson, who made the all-state festivals this year. And then this year was not a nationals year, but in the past, we had 1 student come back for EHS Day. Roger Cabrera ranked amongst the top 8 students in the country on French horn. And the year prior to that, in 2021, Megumi Barclay, the exact same thing, ranked in the top 8 for French horn.
I asked because this was explained to us once before, and I don't think a lot of people understood it. So I wanted them to understand and see how important and how impressive that is. So thank you.
And they do this all on their own. We don't like. I do a mock audition with them in November, but other than that, they're independently learning solos, their scales, and it's giving them a great real-world audition and interview experience to learn how to deal with your nerves, so that when you go on that interview, you know what to do. When you go on that audition, you know what to do. So yeah, they're to be commended for that, for sure. Yeah.
There's also county band, which is run through Northampton County, all the county schools, and I believe the parochial schools participate as well. That's usually about 120 kids. Easton has sent 30 this past year. So we are well represented within our local community as well.
Okay, thank you so much to our music department. And I have to echo everything that was said previously, but one of the most important things, I think, as Mr. Ballantyne mentioned, is your ability to keep pace and modernize, right? To keep kids active and engaged at such a young level and to continue to offer field performances and choir options for kids at a secondary level that keeps them interested and keeps pace, is something that I've seen over the 17 years as an administrator in this district, whether it's jazz ensembles or choral music, or Coldplay Field Show. So, kudos to you to continue to keep our students engaged in modernizing, the band, but also keeping that tradition. I got goosebumps thinking about Friday Night Football. So congratulations. Thank you so much for your support. I hope you like it. So. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Mr. Ballantyne. Thank you very much for attending this evening. I appreciate it. All right. So moving on, we have some items for board approval. So we're actually going to go in out of order here. We'll start with our field trips under D. The Robotics Club will be going to Warren Tech for a competition. And then we also have our Rovers Achieving Diplomas program attending the Muhammad Ali Training Camp in Orwigsburg, Pennsylvania. That is both an inspirational and a reward for the outstanding work that those students are doing towards achieving their high school diplomas. I'll now pass it along to our conference requests to Mrs. Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. So we have some conferences underway and one that has already passed. So tonight, Dr. Draper and Mrs. Caraprice are attending the State Association Federal Program Coordinators Conference in Hershey, where they hope to receive some good news on federal funding that we've all been anxiously awaiting. Mrs. Caraprice has also recently attended the Pre-K Counts Conference. We have two national conferences that are highlighting two of our student leaders, both supervised by business teacher Ms. Klein. We have the Microsoft Office Specialist Conference coming up and the Future Business Leaders of America. So we wish those students best of luck in those competitions and thank Ms. Klein for her willingness to supervise those trips. I'm going to tag Mr. Cook back. Or no, sorry, are we going into?
Go right ahead.
We're going to go right into CNI updates. Girls on the Run has their 5K event up at DeSales University on Sunday, May 18th. We have 4 schools proudly sending teams, including the middle school, Forks, Tracy, and Shawnee Elementary Schools. All are welcome to attend and support the students. The race begins at 10 a.m., once again at DeSales University. We also have, as part of our rising transition plan at the middle school, we have our ESL trip to the middle school where our 5th grade multilingual learner students will visit the school, providing them an opportunity to meet students and staff, learn about expectations and procedures, and become more familiar with the school environment. We, in past, back on May 1st, we hosted a spring to kindergarten kickoff. Mr. Bonilla was a key facilitator of this opportunity to bring together our kindergarten teachers, our elementary principals, and some of our community partners. This is an opportunity for us to re-release our Ready Rover document. That was a document finalized right before COVID. So we're looking to create Ready Rover 2.0. All in an effort to make sure that our incoming students are ready to have a successful kindergarten year here in Easton. We are also in the middle of planning our summer school programs. Our high school and middle school programs will offer a credit recovery opportunity for students at the middle school and high school. Our elementary schools, all 7, will be offering a 2 to 4 week program for our incoming kindergarten students, focusing on building school readiness, in areas such as procedural and instructional routines, and also early foundational skills, literacy skills. Lastly, our Project of Easton partners will continue to host the Summer Sizzle program at Tracy Elementary School. They've been working very closely with our interventionist teams at the elementary schools to identify students in grades 1 to 5 who are in need of a little extra boost in their literacy foundational skills as well. Mr. Cook?
All right. Also coming up, our federal monitoring visit was postponed until June the 10th, 2025. So that's what Dr. Draper would like to present to you. The results will then follow roughly 3 weeks after that visit. So towards the end of the month, we should get that federal monitoring report. The ELA and math frameworks, which have been previously reported under academics, have been updated and revised. The importance of that revision is that we're able to share them out with our community partners who serve all of our students in their after-school and summer programs, so they can continue to reinforce those skills that we are addressing each day in our classrooms. We also have an update for AI. There has been a small committee created under the curriculum instruction team. That team has put together a survey that's been recently sent out to staff by Dr. Draper to gather insights into teachers' knowledge, comfort level, and experience with AI tools in ed. We're also interested in learning how AI is currently being used in our classrooms and understanding our teachers' readiness to understand what future potential it will have for our students. This feedback that we're going to receive from the surveys is an important part of shaping future professional development opportunities and guiding our efforts to support the effective integration of AI into our schools. So lots of things on the horizon for our curriculum instruction department, starting to get that information back now via some surveys for a small committee for CNI. So more to come on that. So that concludes our updates. And then once again, we just have those conference requests and the field trip requests for board approval next Wednesday. Thank you.
Okay, so like Mr. Cox said, the conference and field trip request will be on the agenda for the 21st. Next, we have athletics. Dr. Zayedic.
Sure. Yeah, just wanted to apologize. Dr. Baltz said he does miss being here this evening, but he is out of the district. So I believe, Mr. Geiger, you want to talk through the next two that we discussed, and we'll fill in together?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So again, I'm here to talk on behalf of Dr. Baltz. There are two items this evening that are on the agenda. One is a purchase of helmets for the football program. In speaking with Dr. Baltz and the work that he has done to research this, the purchase of these helmets will very much diversify our equipment that we have. Many of you are aware that we are moving at a lightning pace in terms of safety, especially around athletic equipment, and these helmets come with an advanced opportunity for some safety pieces as well. It'll also go a long way towards replacing our aging equipment. It would be a purchase of 60 SpeedFlex Axiom helmets, and part of this offer is with every helmet that we purchase, we would also get a pair of shoulder pads to replace and upgrade those as well, and that is part of the purchase as well. We did work with our St. Luke's support staff to look at the technology. These are what Rydell calls smart helmets. So they do come with technology inside of them and a sideline package where the impact on those helmets can be read immediately on the sideline to indicate injury. And it can also be used to look at a player and their use of their helmet and teaching practice to show them how they properly should be entering into any type of play that could potentially be a safety concern. So these helmets are obviously moving us in the right direction in terms of replacing aging equipment, but also in the safety area as well. And Dr. Baltz has done a lot of research towards this as well. He has also wanted me to make sure that you understood that he did take care of this, budgeting this in his budget process as well. Any questions on the helmets that I can answer?
So Kyle, do you remember what the combined value of those are?
So just under 44,000.
Right, so the original combined value was closer to around, I think, 70 or 80. But the deal
With
that
the
they
shoulder
were
pads, absolutely,
right.
yes.
So when we were looking to make that deal, it came out to be about 44. I will say to the board, Matt's recommendation is to utilize the St. Luke's funds, the $75,000 that he does determine on a yearly basis. That is his recommendation on where to draw the funds from to purchase these.
The second item is scoreboards. We are looking at the American Scoreboard Company for an agreement to install 2 digital scoreboards in our main competition gym, which for us we know is the middle school gymnasium. That is a value of $200,000 at no cost to the district. They will install those 2 digital scoreboards. One would be 10 by 15, the other one 7 by 15 in size. And again, no cost for installation, no cost for equipment. There would be a yearly software cost. However, Dr. Bolts wanted me to make sure that everybody understood there is a revenue sharing opportunity for us to take advantage of. Any type of advertising that we send and refer to the company, we would have 25% of that revenue come back to the school. And Dr. Bolts is very confident that with our support locally for our programs, that we would recoup the money necessary for that software cost that would come every year. These are controlled by iPads, so it would get rid of the consoles that we currently have to upgrade and replace or take care of. It would be taken care of, or the whole thing would operate on a district iPad, which obviously we already have in our repertoire. And I know Whitehall High School has these already in their gym. I went, as well as, I know Mrs. Arntz got up at this point, and oh, she's over there. She was able to go and actually see the process of how this operates, how their operators are working the boards from their iPads. So we do have a good background in that. Aside from Whitehall, these are also in Bangor, Nazareth, Central Catholic, and from my understanding, and many more gyms to come in the very near future. They do have Wi-Fi capabilities or internet capabilities, so once installed, our fans can connect right into those scoreboards and see what the score of our games are without being there. So there's a lot of capabilities that come along with it, and it's an opportunity that we feel is very important and would be very good for our athletic programs at the high school and obviously with the middle school gym.
Yeah, Kyle, I'll just add one more thing. The value of that software, it is a yearly fee for the software. It's about $7,500. But however, with the revenue sharing, we're expected not to necessarily have to be concerned about that. But Matt has that budget appropriately within his budget as well to take care of it should it not reach that. And then the $200,000, the combined cost of everything, including the AV server and the install for both boards, and then that we would pay those ad revenues until those boards would be essentially the cost, and then it would become ours. So it's an opportunity to work together and to get the free boards, but to also participate in the ad revenue sharing. So just want to make sure that we were all on the same page on that.
I'd also like to say that I think with these boards, it also gives the opportunity for like our phys ed department to utilize them for teaching and instruction. So it's not just for our athletics, it's also a possibility for our gym classes.
Correct.
In recital E, it says that in exchange for the supply of the equipment, the school agrees to grant to American Scoreboards the exclusive rights to all media rights used on, in connection with, and arising from the use of the equipment. What does that mean, media rights? Is that images that are broadcast over the scoreboard of the students? Or is that just advertising?
So it's basically linked to the advertisement, and I will say that was reviewed by our office, and we did push back a little bit on it. It's so linked to the way that the funding happens for the scoreboard, that's something that they require. But if you look a little later, we did add the language that the contents of any and all such advertising and/or sponsorship are subject to the sole discretion of the school for final approval, which shall not be unreasonably withheld. So we were able to add that we still have final approval to ensure the contents are appropriate.
Well, appropriate, but what is the content?
Well, so it's advertising that they would be collecting for the scoreboard, right? So they do contain or control that aspect of it. And again, that's to link to the district not having to pay anything.
Okay.
For the scoreboard.
So it's not images of the students'
Oh,
games?
no, not like, these scoreboards are in the school, so, there would be like replays of the potential for, there's the potential for a replay of a play, or things of that nature, but it's not something that is broadcast outside of the district.
Okay, because it says that they have the rights to any media that's used on the scoreboard, which would include playbacks or images of the band, or, right?
Right.
Images of the students playing.
Yeah, let me take a look at it. My understanding was this was all related to the use within and on the scoreboard. So I can take a further look at that if that's an area of concern, and we can report back by next week.
Okay, so I was remiss in asking if there was any public to be heard on academic items, agenda items. So is there anyone who, okay. Now I will ask if there's any public to be heard on athletic agenda items. Seeing none, okay. Okay, next we have budget and finance, Mr. Trent.
Sure. Gina, could you bring up the presentation, please? So we'll call this the preliminary proposed general fund budget. Next slide, please. So here are the deadlines we're looking at with the PDE. By the 31st of this month, we have to adopt the proposed version of the final budget. That's what we'll be doing at the next meeting, next Wednesday. June 30th is the district deadline to adopt the final budget. That's what we'll be doing at the final meeting in June. And then internally for us, July 15th is when we have to submit the final budget to Department of Education. Some of the days we have to remember, the timeline is that there has to be at least 30 days between the proposed and final budget adoption, hence why we're moving the meeting. And the proposed budget also has to be available for public inspection for at least 30 days. Next slide, please. So this timeline has changed, but June 24th is true. That's when we'll vote to approve the final general fund budget. Next slide. So this is the overview of where the budget is today. This is what we'll go over in the next few slides. It's a balanced budget, $214,105,899. Our revenues, as we've discussed, have come from the local, state, and federal. And you can see the numbers associated with the salaries, the benefits, the purchase services, and the supplies and property. And it represents a balanced budget. So the value of 1 mil, this is a condensed chart of what we saw at the last meeting. The 25-26, we're proposing 72.17 mils. That constitutes a 3.5% increase. One of the things I want to point out with the 3.5% is there is no fund balance being used in this budget. And one of the keys to remember is fund balance is public funds. So when you use fund balance, you're using public funds. It comes from public sources. So this has no fund balance. It has the 3.5%, which gives us 72.17 mils. Next slide, please. Here is, with the millage rate that we are presenting right now, the expected annual and monthly increases for Easton, Forks, Lower Mount Bethel, and Palmer. You can leave that up. Go ahead. All right, so we had the presentation by Raymond James. We keep revisiting this. If you go to the next slide, I have it blown up. Thank you. So the big thing here that we need to look at, so let's look at 2025 and 2026. Those are the top two lines. So if you look at column 8, total debt service. So our debt service this year, what we owe to pay our bonds is $16.3 million. What it would be next year is $15.8. That's a change, a decrease in $483,000. But if we go over to column 14, because we're moving towards this $300 million capital projects fund, it goes from $17.4 million this year to $19.138 million next year. And that's what's in the budget right now, $19.138 million. That represents an increase of $1.738 million from last year, or sorry, from this year to next year. If we were to look into our if we were to look at our collection rate and figure it out, that's about 1.11 mils. It says 1.05 up there. With our collection rate, it's 1.11, which is about 1.59%. That's where we get these numbers from. The 1.5% was the estimate given by Raymond James. That's actually what we're looking at. That creates a surplus of $3.3 million. You can see it's in yellow, it's highlighted. And then if you go back to column 7, there's highlights over there. That's where that money is going to be going to in the future years. So that's what we've been talking about. I figured it was important to have it up one more time because it has played a role in a lot of the discussions and the development of the budget. Next slide, please. March 25th is where we started. I've been here, I think, 3 months. The original presentation had revenues of 212.5, expenditures nearing 220. So we were projecting a deficit of 7.4. If you can go to the next slide, please. This is the changes in the general fund budget that have occurred. So the tax levy increase for the capital projects, plus looking more in depth at the local, state, federal revenues. And you have to understand those all didn't go up. For example, the state revenues decrease because as we were losing positions, we were losing the state share of retirement funds we'd be getting, so I had to decrease the revenues there as well. We removed about 2.5 million from the salary lines. A lot of that was due to retirement incentive, and there's other areas where that occurred as well. We've been working very hard on the health benefit lines, and we've reduced that line by almost 1.9 million. The thing to remember is with the salary lines, every salary, you have to count about 25 or 35% of that and add that on for benefits. So that's a big chunk that comes out right there. We negotiated a 0% increase in our health insurance for the administrative fee for going weekly instead of monthly. That saved us $200,000. And there's a lot of other just little movements along the way. The executive team and administration spent a lot of time analyzing every single district contract, and $640,000 is the amount that was able to be removed, whether it was contracts that were through ESSER and then we budgeted and then we were able to remove. However it got there, we have $640,000 contracts. I calculated about $385,000 adjustments as external budgets were presented, so that's the IU, that's CIT, that's Northampton. When I first budgeted, I didn't really know what I was looking at with those. I put in a number, and then as they came through and we could really zero everything in, we realized the savings there. I had a $150,000 reduction in technology line, which the board approved. It was the iPads. And then from March until now, there's just the standard movement you have in the budget as you meet with everybody, where you can slowly lower amounts. For example, I might meet with a principal and they might say, I don't need, $1,000 in this line. And then as you slowly start to pick everything apart, that's where the rest of the money came from. So if we go to the next slide, there is the chart of how it happened from the March presentation to the balanced budget that we're presenting today. So you can see the increase in revenue on the left side, and then you can see the expenditures decreasing on the other side. Every decreased expenditure is a recognized amount right now, so there's no anticipated amounts in there. Those are the recognized amounts that have occurred. Next slide, please. So the next steps, our next meeting, we'll present this again, maybe go in depth if there are any questions that need to be presented over the next week to me. We'll propose the final budget, and then we will advertise our intent to adopt the final budget June 24th. Are there any questions for me?
Jack, first of all, I just want to thank you. Appreciate what you've done to, get us from where we were at the beginning of the year when you first got here to where we are now. The one question that I have, well, I do have a couple questions, but one for you is if you go back to the slide number 5, the value of a mill.
Mm-hmm.
On the 94% collections, value of mill 1.664. That's only $1,000 more than this current year. I just want to make sure that that's accurate.
I'll check my calculations. I have a spreadsheet that I dropped into the presentation.
Yeah,
so I'll make
we've
sure.
looked at it. I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that that's right. And then, so a mill is generates 1.64. Then you go to 8 and you look at the new mills, 1.05. So that really,
Gina, could you
we're
go
going
to
up
slide
1.7. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, could you go to slide 8, please?
Sorry, Gina.
One more, right there. Yeah, so the value of
So,
one mill's. Yeah.
Just to be clear, so that equals the 1.6, and that's close to the 1.7 that we need for increasing. One thing you did mention is that surplus, and that last column, that 3.3. That's the surplus for what you're budgeting for next year, that we do not need to pay debt, but that is starting the fully funded process
That is
for the
correct.
capital plan. I just wanted to make that very clear that
Yes.
we're not, carrying surpluses. And then that opportunity also is to address some of our facility needs during the year or as they come up.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yes, thank
But
you.
thanks for the detail and the presentation. I do have a question for Tracy. And just when we talk about that reduction on the contracts of $640K, so those services that we were doing with those contracts, are they going to be eliminated? Are they going to be picked up elsewhere with under the current numbers? How are you going to plan for that?
So some of them are being eliminated and some of them are being reduced. Some of them will potentially be either changed of a provider or picked up under things such as Ready to Learn Block Grant. But as an example, and we're still working through some of these pieces, Mike, but as an example, we have to renegotiate our contract with Bucksbaum. And one of the things that we know there is that last year we had, I think, about 40 or 45 students, and we're proposing to drop that down to 30. So that will change that contract, just that number alone, and then whatever else happens within that contract. Another example is our contract with Communities in Schools. That's been a long-standing contract even to the time that you were here, but during ESSER, we added an additional 4 or 6 positions, and those positions will have to be pulled back. And the ones that will remain will be redistributed based on needs at mainly our high school and middle school. That's where that group is servicing most. So there are.
Yeah, okay.
So there are pieces there, and then there are just some contracts that we eliminated altogether.
Right.
That is either duplicitous or decide that we no longer need them for whatever reasons.
Could we have a list, just
Yeah.
for an example, so we can, just for our own benefit? On the Bucksmont, from 45 spots to 30, what have we used? Have we used the 45, and are we going to need them?
So I'm going to let Craig, jump in on that, but what I will say, prior to him responding fully, is that it's an ebb and flow.
Right.
That there haven't been 45 there, the same student for the entire time, but we have ebbed and flowed. And there is a danger in this, in that some of those are our highest need students.
Right.
And so if they're not going there, then where are they going? And the hope and intent is that we are programming appropriately within our buildings to keep more students there.
And the reason why I ask is, and just so everybody knows, when you have 45 slots, you're paying for them whether you're using them or not. So that's why I was asking if
Correct.
we have been using them, and then are we prepared if we need more than 30, or if we have to do something else with those students?
Yeah, Craig can respond. We have, those spots have been filled the entire time, but not with the same student each
Right,
time.
right.
And then Craig, if you want to kind of elaborate a little bit more.
So looking at our numbers the last 2 years, that's how we kind of defined where we wanted to start this year. I would say we didn't start off with our 44 or 45 slots totally filled, but we filled up fairly quickly looking at our 7th through our 12th grade students. What we're doing at the end of this year is really looking at all of our students that are currently enrolled in Bucksmont, having a discussion with the school counselor and Bucksmont to determine who should be returning for fall of next year, really having discussions in terms of it might be comfortable for you over there, but at the same way, is it something that we can do to still educate you at the high school and be able to provide the supports for you in this building to make it more appropriate? So I am looking at a reduction of students that would probably be over there, but we should have a real firm number based upon looking at the end of the year numbers, and then really taking a look at what those numbers are for next year to ensure that we're staying within our allotted amount. Bucksmont's been pretty good. Mike, also with, if we go over that number, allotted number, they're still giving us the discounts that we saw previously in our negotiated contract. So we aren't seeing an uptick of 20% for a student that we put over there. That's above our 35 numbers, slots.
What happens with the agreement or Bucksmont if we take out 15 students? Is there a need, will they have those slots filled from other districts? Is that going to create a problem with them maintaining their program?
They do have a concern in terms of the space and the number of students that are over there, but we assured them, through discussions that, we are still going to be utilizing them as we have previously. And they do utilize other sending school districts to bus students down there right now. So they're not looking at a reduction in staff or anything like that based upon us going, sliding between, 5 to 10 different students.
And that, is the agreement being negotiated or like amended to it? Like we have it's an agreement for 45 slots. Is it a new agreement or we're just going to amend it?
So we're in the discussions right now with Bucksmont. We have a follow-up meeting next week with them. We kind of went around a little bit in the discussions of what we were looking for in terms of our continued agreement, and they kind of gave us their thoughts. You know, obviously, we put ourselves in the best position we could to negotiate with them, and also understand that right now, between them and LLA and the IU, this is all we have in our general vicinity, and it's very close for proximity for busing. So.
To answer your question, that contract is expired and so needs to be re-authored.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So with that contract, are we looking as a one-year contract at this time, or are we looking, what's,
I think those are yet to be determined. Right now, the original the conversation on the table is 1 year, and then decide from there what they're going to do and what we're going to need.
okay. Does anyone else have anything? Thank you, Mr. Simonetta, because you asked most of the questions I was going to ask. I just want to clarify that at this point, we are doing, it's this 3.5% increase,
That is correct.
okay? And we are utilizing the $7 million from the TIF
That is correct.
to balance it.
I did have one more
Go ahead.
question or request. When we project forward, so, you know, we receive that 7 million influx for this year. That's a concern for 26, 27, because we're only going to realize a percentage increase on the taxes for that year, not an increase of $7 million in the base. We're using that for this year. So if you could provide the board or the finance, or everyone, maybe a projection on where we're going to be at for 26, 27, so we just have an idea. Listen, folks, it's very obvious, you know, when you see the salary and benefits account, that unfortunately, you know, we still have work to do, because 2% tax increase does not equate to maintaining what we have under the current staffing. So it'd be good for Jack to present that and keep the future aspect in mind every time we're talking about spending and budgeting.
I will add that to the presentation for next week.
Thanks.
Sorry, one last thing. Could you also add in there where we are at as far as our fund balances?
Sure.
So as we move forward, Jack has done an outstanding job on this budget, as we've all kind of seen and acknowledged. But the plan moving forward is then to produce these 3 to 5 year projected budgets that we will continually report on throughout the course of the year, so that you can keep track of where we are and where we need to go in terms of our projections. And the work, you know, as you pointed out, Mike, and we've been talking about for a while, is certainly not done. We know that we have to continually look and see where are those cost savings, you know, where are the duplicative services, what does our staffing look like? And so it is certainly not a one-year fix. It is an ongoing fix to be able to continue to support this building project, if that's the vote of the board and the will of the board, but also then to, once we're through that piece, to be able to bring our annual budget back down to that, you know, level of funding that our taxpayers are more typically used to. And that can only happen by us doing our due diligence of continuing to cut and be conservative where we can be within our budget.
So next, I have the food service management contract with Whitson's. There was no further questions, right? Am I good to move on? I'm good? Okay. We have the food service management contract with Whitson's. This is the third year of our 4-year contract with them. I just sent the final documents to the state today, so hopefully they don't send them back and we can sign everything and we can be good with that. The homestead farmstead exclusion resolution, it was listed in the presentation. It's $5,714,732. Just some information on it. It equates to a maximum reduction of $412.66 at our current millage rate. It's a reduction in assessment of $5,717 per parcel. And to qualify for the reduction, the property must be your primary residence. The next resolution, is it E? E is designating depositories. That's just yearly statement of where do we put our money. It's our bank accounts. The F is the Giant Corporation. It's a donation of approximately $7,000, and it will be used toward food service equipment upgrade in the student cafeterias. And then the St. Luke sponsorship funds transfer, again, this is a yearly agenda item. It's to approve the transfer of $150,000 from the St. Luke's District Community Partnership Agreement to the Capital Reserve account. And this money is allocated to assist in the payment of the bond for the turf field at Cottingham Stadium. And I believe that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions? All right, is there any public to be heard on budget and finance agenda items? Okay, if you could come to the podium, sign your name, state which municipality you're from, and you'll be given 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Bud Hackett, and I'm here to tell a story about the tax increment financing that is yielding $7 million to the school district. And I was privileged to be a part of a group of people in the Northampton County Industrial Development Authority. We were volunteers. I am no longer with that group as a volunteer right now, but I'm very proud of the work that was done. In and around, I will be brief. In and around 2011, this body approved a resolution that helped authorize the Industrial Development Authority to issue bonds on behalf of the Schrin organization to help pay for the interchange at 33 and Tatamy Road. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the process, but I'll review it quickly. Prior to that time, Mr. Schrin and the Schrin family assembled between 800 and 1,000 acres. The value was about $2,000 an acre. The tax revenue to the school district was very low. The concept was, if Mr. Schrin could put in a new interchange, which was about $40 million, and a bond could be issued for $28 million to support that, that would increase the value of the land, and it was an economic development program. It would help create jobs. It would incentivize industrial companies to come to Northampton, and the result has been about 12 buildings, large buildings, the average is about 600,000 square feet, have been built mostly on the western side of 33 and Tatamy Road interchange. So our interest from the economic development side in the county was to help create jobs and help promote new business. And oh, by the way, that will eventually yield tax revenue to the school district, the county, and the municipality. You agreed to postpone your acceptance, we'll say, of the taxes that were generated in the past 10 years. But most of that bond has been paid off. I don't have the details of that with me right now. Most of it is paid off, and now all that tax revenue is going to come to you, the county, and the municipality. So I'm here to talk about it because it's a proud time in my career where we were helping the economic development of Northampton County, encouraging the creation of, I believe there's about 3,500 jobs up there right now. That's a lot of jobs. That's a lot of people that are working that might not otherwise be working. And to create an environment that would yield revenue for the school district. So whether or not you know that story or not, I was encouraged to come and tell it because not everybody knows how that worked. But there were a lot of people in the 2010 to 2016 timeframe that were involved in this activity, producing jobs, producing industrial development, and now producing revenue for the school district. There's a lot more information we can share at another time if you ever want to know, but I came here tonight just to share that bit of information. Enjoy the $7 million.
Mr. Hackett, thank you for that. I was here when we did that TIF, and we planned it out. The board, everybody looked at that. That revenue was expected after 10 years. It was originally designated to have a real good head start on funding the new high school and all the work that we needed to do in high school. Unfortunately, over the years, things have changed, and we had to use it more for the budget, which is fine as well. It's a revenue, it's a tax revenue. We're balancing our expenses with it. So this is why we're needing a little more at this stage of the game for our high school. But that was a interesting involvement that I was part of back then, learned a lot, and I'm glad to see after 10 years that it came through and worked out as planned.
There's so much more that could be done in this community to promote economic development, so that's another discussion.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was the end of my first tenure on school board, so I was involved also. All right, so I have a question on we said we submitted for the PDE approval. So are we looking to have that on for next week, or are we looking as that's more something in June, July for the food service?
It'll be on the next meeting.
Okay,
It's,
I just wanted to make sure.
yes.
Okay. Okay, so then we will have, let's see, education, technology, and student supports.
Craig, we only have one item for approval, which is the social worker agreement, if you want to kind of talk through that a little bit with the grant funding.
Sure. So this was through our PCCD grant before. We had a different provider we were looking at. We ended up through discussions, it was kind of discussing it with St. Luke's. It made sense, being that they're in all of our elementary schools and they can assist our families with access and care within the St. Luke's organization. So what we're going to do is see if the PCCD grant will allow us to be amended. Nancy Calabrese is working on that currently. If that goes through and the grant can be amended, that money would not to exceed, that's already been built in PCCD, would be $99,000 that would be billed at. As soon as it was approved through PCCD, then we would get the agreement signed with St. Luke's, but not until that time, until it was approved. This position would be working in between the buildings and central administration to be able to provide data analysis and also individual needs to families to be able to access MA and other services that are out there. As a school district this large, not having a social worker is kind of an anomaly. So I think this allows us to kind of put our toe in the water to feel what that looks like and kind of build the position as we go, and we're not beholden to this long-term position then. So it would be for only a year. Once that monies would be exhausted, that would be the end of the agreement with St. Luke's. It would be billed hourly, correct, not to exceed $100,000.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay, any public to be heard on educational technology and student supports? Okay, seeing none. Is there any other business? No?
Just a reminder that we'll see everybody Wednesday, 21st, as a voting meeting at 7 o'clock, as opposed to the following week on the 27th.
Okay, and at point two, if we can have the date for the
Yes.
ad hoc for the thing.
Yep, I will give you
One
the summer
item,
report.
okay, one item I would like to address is if we could have the presentations, whatever presentations are being made, be it the budget, the capital projects, the music, if we can have them on the agenda so that the public can see them prior to the meeting, I'd appreciate it. All right, and is there any public to be heard on non-agenda items? Nope, okay. Can I call for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Any opposed?